Okay.
Oh, we're live. We are live. Hey, Facebook. Hey, YouTube. How we doing tonight?
Hey, I'm Diana Rachel, and this is Nikki Jobin over here. And we are the owners of Golden Apple Metaphysical, and it is a random Tuesday night, and we are left unsupervised.
We're definitely left unsupervised. Welcome to the show. If you haven't seen us before, if you're one of our regular followers, welcome back. We've been back after our little Yule break.
Mm-hmm. Which I think kind of wiped us both out for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. The next day I was like a zombie. It was hysterical.
Yeah, for two people that used to go running around until 3 or 4 in the morning in San Francisco, damn.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, this whole pandemic and sleep thing is killing me. It's killing me.
Yeah. Well, I'm only catching up in sleep for the last 5 years. The pandemic seems like an opportunity right up until I caught COVID.
Yeah.
I'm still recovering from that. I still get the occasional stab headaches. It's just been great.
Yeah.
And I just found out one of my partners just had a COVID scare, and he has a 2-year-old son who might have been exposed to it. So far, yeah.
Mhm.
So far, tests are coming back negative, but it's just oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we had one too. It was and it was really the exposure risk happened because people weren't being candid
Yeah.
about not feeling good. Not even that they didn't know at the time whether or not they were positive, but they weren't feeling good. And then Noelle was in proximity, not for a long enough time, but so far her tests have come back negative, which we're very thankful for.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm really glad to hear that, because that would have been yikes.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. While the bar is closed, I've taken a job as an essential worker, and a couple things that I've really realized is that it's a much different experience from the last time I was in retail, and people are not kind to grocery workers. Not
No.
always. Some people are fantastic. Some people are amazing. We have a wonderful community where I work, but some people just are really rude. And when we have to ask people to put their masks on, and they give you a hard time about it, or we ask them to distance. I literally had to tell a couple of young people the other day, 2020 is over. Social distancing is not. Get back. Because they were literally, this far apart from this older gentleman who was in my line. It was bananas.
And they keep thinking, I don't know, these people keep thinking they're making a stand. I'm like, you don't protect your freedom by stealing it from somebody else.
Yeah.
You don't protect your life by stealing somebody else's.
And it's just, I fortunately have not had to deal with any of these situations personally, but you know what? I've definitely heard some horror stories, and I'm hoping that it doesn't happen to me, because it's not going to be pretty. We all know how I'm going to deal with that.
No. Nikki, I do not have enough set aside for your bail. I'm just saying.
I'll start Brad will start a GoFundMe for me. I'm sure people
Maybe
will.
I should just start a GoFundMe in advance. We'll just
Right?
start Nikki's
People
bail.
watching, make comments on the post. Would you contribute to a GoFundMe if I went to jail for punching someone who threatened me when I asked them to put a mask on?
Someone will comment only if we get to see Diana facepalm when she gets the news. But
we can do a live from the jail, and then I can walk out and be like, vindicated.
I still have a picture of you in that jail cell in Alcatraz, so we could use that for the fundraiser picture.
That would be great. That would be great. Oh my gosh, it's hysterical. I know that wasn't the topic that we had for tonight, but that was a good start.
Elsa.
Love it. Love it. This is Elsa from our group. Thank you so much. We appreciate the hell out of you. I appreciate you.
We'll just start that. Anything that's left over can either go to like funding Emperor Norton or the Emperor Norton Meetup Fund, or as the investment platform for Golden Apple as we build it.
There we go. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Yeah, I'm trying not to go to jail though. That is my ultimate goal. Go ahead.
I've been asked to try starting to avoid that because I have kids now. Apparently it's frowned on,
Yeah,
even
it's
for
not a
good
good look.
reasons.
Yeah.
So, and we did have to explain that I have tendencies towards civil disobedience, but I'm also a subversive, so I use the system against itself.
But there we go. There we go. I think we need a little bit more of that out there.
Oh, yes.
We did have a topic tonight.
We did.
All right, I will let you start with that because it
It,
started on your page.
and it is a public post, so people can go and
Mhm.
look at this and, see things about my personal life that will just make them horribly confused.
Mhm.
But there was a question posed to me because I had an open question yesterday about is there anything anyone wants to ask me about? Because there's been a few things going on where I'm like, I'm thinking some people need to ask questions and actually talk to me.
Mhm.
And one of them asked, what do you think of this new generation of witches that don't really seem to care about the witches that came before? Now, I'm kind of looking at that going, I kind of want to talk to that person and find out where that question is coming from. Because, one, I don't think that's actually true. But it's also, and I was trying to sit down and write it out, and I realized that there was no short way to answer this because it really requires a lot of thought,
Mhm.
because it's a really nuanced opinion. And it starts with, and I hate to do this, but it really starts with, okay, so who are you talking about when you say witch?
Mhm.
Are you talking about just the neo-pagan, neo-Wiccan community? Because that's actually a really narrow subset. And that particular subset has been responding a little bit poorly to the much wider playground that has evolved over the past 10 years or so. And that wider playground has been evolving for as more people are able to get the internet and as more people are able to get free access to it that are not necessarily in that very specific, not terribly culturally diverse grouping.
Mhm.
And I define witch and witchcraft as an anthropological universal. So a Wiccan is not the only witch in town. Witches are in literally every culture in some way.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this particular question is definitely a pile of kindling just waiting for a match.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, yes.
but speaking as someone who is on the very fringe, um, I think it's a matter of perspective. I don't know if the younger generation of witches is necessarily dismissing the people
Hmm.
that have come before because we all had to learn somewhere.
Right.
But they might be rebelling against something that I've experienced myself when people that have been in the community and are known or are more established and have a wider community
Hmm.
completely dismiss you because you don't.
Yeah.
Um, I have our favorite story from Emperor Norton was, Diana and I co-run this group together, and we had another group that came to sit in to see if they'd like to maybe collaborate our groups. And, Diana is definitely the one who I think you have way more of the learned knowledge,
I
definitely
do.
more than I do.
I'm the
And
Giles.
yeah,
I'm the
you're the
Giles of the group.
Giles. You're the Giles. I'm the Faith, maybe. I don't want to say I'm the Buffy, but I'm the Faith, where I kind of have learned a lot of things on the fly. But I have
Mhm.
30 years under my belt, and I am still dismissed by people that don't consider me good enough or witch enough or pagan enough because I don't have a pagan pedigree.
And it pisses me off every time somebody treats you like that. Yeah, I'm an author. Yeah, I have cachet now. I haven't forgotten some of the really shitty ways I was treated early in my career just because I was young.
Mhm.
And just because people hadn't heard of me and I couldn't afford to go to the festivals and cons. And that financial division was a big thing because if you weren't able to be part of that culture, you were treated like you had nothing to contribute.
Mhm. It may well be that there are specifics behind the particular question that came up on your thing, but for the
Right.
most part, I find that it is a it's a pretty widespread thing. I remember when we were at Pagonicon years ago,
Hmm.
um, there was literally a question. There was literally a panel for "Are you Wiccan enough?" And person after person after person that stood up and they basically gave their testimony of how they were treated badly because they weren't considered pagan enough.
Yeah, well, and I still get double takes when someone says something about me being Wiccan and they're trying to be loving and accepting, and I'm like, I'm not Wiccan. Used to
Yeah.
be. And there are some devout Wiccans that are horrified that anyone would leave their faith just the same way. And I don't think they're connecting that they're acting the same way as Christians do when someone realizes that that's not their truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just, and it's not true of all Wiccans. I honestly, the really genuinely elder Wiccans seem to handle this a lot better than the middle-aged patch that are our
Mm-hmm.
age.
Yeah. I mean, I
The
started
older
out as
ones are
Wiccan
cool.
too.
Yeah.
I started out that way. And for me, it was just like, all right, say there's this sweater. It's the perfect color. It's the right fit. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful sweater. I put
Mm-hmm.
it on and it's really itchy. I can't wear the sweater. That's kind of what Wicca was like for me. For me, I just needed to diverge my path a little bit.
Yeah.
And we understand why, because I deal with shadow work and I deal with things that a lot of people that dismiss me, people that are good white witches and quote unquote good witches, would never touch. I
Mm-hmm.
deal with those things. I solve those problems.
Yeah.
But yet I don't have any, I have street cred, but I don't have any other credibility in the community itself. And that can be very hurtful. So to the person that asked this question, and initially my question to you is it that they're truly trying to be disrespectful? Or is it that they're trying to get to know these people, or they're trying to learn more and their, respect is earned?
And this is what I said, is that this is a question of respect should be given, or should respect be earned. And just being older, even if you are more experienced, how you treat people still matters. That is still a factor. But I also want to say that I just don't think it's factually true that younger people don't care about who came before, because if that were true, there would not be so many people devoting themselves to healing ancestral trauma,
Mm-hmm.
to cultivating ancestor work. But ancestor work is outside of mainstream pagan and Wiccan and neo-Wiccan tradition.
Oh,
That
I
isn't
didn't.
a place where there's a lot of ancestors. There's mighty dead, but there's not necessarily ancestors
Oh, I
unless someone
actually
does this
was not
private
aware of that.
practice. Yeah, it's become co-opted recently. And co-opted may not be the right word because everyone has ancestors. There's nothing wrong with bringing it into Wiccan practice, but
Mm-hmm.
Wicca is essentially a British religion. If your ancestors aren't British, how are they going to feel about it, especially when they hear this harm none stuff, given what they had to do to survive?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why a lot more of the American folk magics and the traditional witchcraft, as in the animistic witchcrafts, is very not Wiccan, because it's very call of the wild, law of the jungle type stuff that factors in to some of those moralities, if you could even call them moralities.
Mm-hmm.
But they care about who came before. It's just they don't necessarily care about who's famous.
That if you were going to hit the point, like the nail on the head, that would be the point.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I've met people that are complete unknowns and people that have come to our group that are like, I don't know anything. I am fresh. I'm a newbie. I don't know anything. And you know what? The power that they've got inside them could light up a freaking city.
And
Like
it
I'm
has.
talking New York.
Yeah, we've got some. Emperor Norton Group has attracted some badass witches and magicians.
Yeah. And the funny part is almost every single one of them that I've met almost have been
Mm-hmm.
completely unaware of it.
Well, and I know people get frustrated with me at cons as my profile has been rising, and I have very complex feelings about that. And this is something that you've known about me since you met me, is because you met me and then found it after the fact you owned a book that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and you've commented to me about I don't have a lot of friends, but I have good friends that I keep close.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you won't hear me name dropping. I think there's a couple people that would be considered pagan famous, which isn't really famous, it's just pagan famous. But, the people I keep close, and some of these people really could light up a city, could light up the damn planet, you know, let it go to hell and back and let it the underworld. And these are people that you may never hear the names of.
Mm-hmm.
But these are authentic people that are rooted and serious about their spirituality.
Yeah.
And these are the people that I want close. I want to have the real stuff, not, not the stuff that's for show, but it's also, I'm not tied to a tradition. And this was the other thing that we've run into. And we've joked about it before about okay, you're an elder, but you're not my elder.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to this there's a lot of these people that have some fame or were married to someone who has some kind of fame. And, celebrity, what was it? Like, there's a word for it now. It's like celebrity philia or something, worship of celebrity is a
Oh.
really common American disease
Mm-hmm.
and other places too. And here's the thing is, one is just because you're a celebrity does not mean that you are teaching anyone anything. And on top of it, this younger generation aren't learning from the self-declared elders, the self-identified elders. They are learning either from people you've never heard of. Like most of the people that I've learned the most from, no one has ever heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And I would run into rooms where it would be well, who initiated you, blah, blah, blah. Well, I had the initiations, but some of them were oath bound. Some of them it was just privacy policy. And what it comes down to is, how about you just see how I behave because it's none of your fucking business who initiated me.
Mm-hmm.
That only matters in Gardnerian and Alexandrian tradition, and I'm not Wiccan. It doesn't fucking matter.
To you.
It doesn't matter to me if it matters to them, but then they're trying to just say whose witchcraft is legitimate.
And I
And
think
that's
the
not okay.
legitimacy, yeah, I think the legitimacy question and the condescension that comes with it
Yeah.
is a big issue. And you talk a lot about the famous quote unquote pagans. I'm talking
Mhm.
about like just people that are elders, like elders in a tradition or they're higher ups in a tradition, and they are very condescending.
They are.
And honestly, until I started going to PantheaCon with you, I didn't really meet anybody that was quote unquote famous.
Right.
And that was just through the course of being in classes with them. And there are definitely people I absolutely fangirl over, because I think that their work is amazing. So
Yeah.
for the people out there thinking that the younger generation, and I definitely don't put myself in the younger generation by age or by experience, but I feel like I have kind of a kinship there because I understand a bit of what they might be going through. You might not think that they respect you, but I guarantee that there is someone out there that they are quoting what they've read, and they are referencing those materials because we all had to start somewhere.
Well, and here's one of the big shifts I've seen, especially because, we've been promoting the Shabbos, we've been spending more time on Instagram. Instagram is a completely different group of witches than any of us in our age range bracket
Mm-hmm.
normally know. What I've been seeing is vastly improved academics, deep dives into authentic folklore, deep dives into neglected populations and their folklore. People, the chaos magic thing where people actually try things.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I used to connect to the moon and the sun worship and this stuff, and I don't connect to that anymore, and I have my reasons for that, which are specific to me. And I see a lot of that in the popular, people like the witch aesthetic and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there is another conversation to have about the way witchcraft is getting commercialized, but it gets commercialized every 20 years or so. And part of the celebrity worship is its commercialization because we live in a capitalist society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that these people they aren't taking things as gospel. They are looking and researching and thinking for themselves, which is what the better quality teachers and elders teach people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're thinking for themselves, they're coming up with some ideas and some conclusions that the elders aren't necessarily liking.
Yeah. But now, I think now, especially with the pandemic and that we've been separated, I think
Mm-hmm.
people are turning to their technology more because we're not having those face to faces. We're not having the conventions where we're meeting new people and getting new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And now's that time to really expand. In my last blog, I wrote a technique that I'm using to kind of help me get through the pandemic.
Mhm.
But I clearly state on there, if what I'm doing doesn't work exactly for you, tweak it, fix it, make it better for you. I'm not offended. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody.
Right. Well, think about it. Sometimes when we're working with clients, we have to do an allergy test for angelic and demonic magic.
Absolutely, because that's not fun.
Yeah, because people, not for me either. We've both almost thrown up because of each other. So, it's. I really want to. Like my spoons are so low lately, but I really want to spend more time looking at neurotheology because what people are inclined to do, religiously, magically, whatever, seems to fall on the same kind of spectrum as being straight or gay.
Hmm.
It's a spectrum, and there is some
Absolutely.
stuff that's absolutely not going to work for people, even if it's freaking foolproof within your tradition.
Hmm.
And your tradition and the way your tradition works is not physics. It just does not get to dictate how all of magic works.
Yeah. I
You
totally
know,
had a thought to go with that and I lost it.
I know we're both having one of those days. Like I'm
Um,
having a one cup of coffee day, and I'm caring for a partner who's preparing for stuff for surgery. So I'm like,
um, God, that bugs me when I do that. But well, it is a spectrum. And now I remember it came back to me. I was thinking something that I've been saying for years. I haven't necessarily applied it to witchcraft,
mm-hmm,
or traditional, paganism, but I've applied it more to more widespread religions, more organized religion. Is I think that people are getting more spiritual but less religious. And I think that that applies in our community as well. People
yeah,
are finding their own roads. It doesn't mean that they're discounting anybody else's road and the road more widely traveled, but it means they're figuring out what's working for them.
yeah. And I know, especially again, I'm an animist, and my primary partner is an animist, and that's really powerful energy to work with. But you completely lose worship relationships in the process of that.
Mhm.
I would technically fall under the definition of a pantheist. I do believe gods exist. I believe in angels and demons and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Gosh.
But I see them as partners, not things to aspire
Mhm.
to.
We have patron people in our house. We have Thor and Danu, who are the patron gods of this house. And while I do bring tribute and tokens, I don't necessarily worship. It's more of a thank you for keeping watch over our family.
Most of the stuff that I say to Perun is completely unrepeatable in public.
But it's enjoyable as hell.
There is that.
Yeah. I mean, please, I'm not any better on my end there, but um, anybody watching, well, I realize that people are coming and going on the view stream that I'm seeing here. But if there are
Yeah,
any questions, any comments, if you have an opposing thought, we would love to hear it.
we actually do want to hear the other ideas. We can handle
Yeah.
them.
That's the great thing about discourse is that, when you can talk about it and not fight about it, but actually have an intelligent conversation. Like if you think that I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. Maybe, you know what? Maybe you're seeing something that I don't.
See, and occasionally and you may know something that we don't.
Mhm.
And that, we're the kind of people, if we learn a new thing, we actually will adjust our beliefs to the new thing,
Yeah.
you know, or challenge the new thing. And then if it stands up to the challenge, awesome. I kind of have a personal frame, and I will admit that I am no saint. I cannot always stick by this. But I try because people are wrong on the internet, and some days it gets under my skin, and some days I just have the sense to stay off the internet. But it is if it is not something, if it does not affect my ability to live my life, if it is about and again, especially because I'm a trans ally, among other things, it's if this person's existence doesn't actually affect mine, if then even if I'm offended by their existence, I don't really need to be an asshole about it. And it comes down to, if this person's ideas expressed are not in any way endangering my ability to live safely and freely, okay. Might not be my bag, but okay. And a lot of people really just have this thing where if it offends you, something that is offensive is treated the same way as something that is threatening.
Hmm.
And learning to discern between the two and go, okay, I can handle being offended is very different.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying like there is a certain point where continuous directed offense is a form of emotional abuse, and that's a different situation for a different time. And usually that's part of my empath workshop.
Yeah.
But if it's just a general, um, I like NASCAR, fuck NASCAR. Okay, it's like the more mushrooms for Nikki
See,
thing.
this is how we tell the difference between Nikki and Diana. See, you had a well thought out thing there. I'm kind of like, you don't like NASCAR? Don't watch NASCAR.
Pretty simple,
You
yeah.
don't like gay marriage? Don't have one.
Yeah.
You don't
And
like sleeping with men? Don't do it. You don't like sleeping with women? Don't
and
do
if
it.
you okay, and if you are a super religious bakery owner who hates gay people, you do need to make the decision between whether you like money or hate gay people more, because these two people do not chintz on their weddings.
Right? Well, that whole situation just blows my mind. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was it they were ordering the cake, or they already had ordered the cake and they
Mhm.
refused to sell it to them?
Yeah, that was just shitty.
Yeah, I'm not really sure which one it goes. We have another comment from Elizabeth here. Let's see. There seems to be a lot of currents in the world universe so that every kind of person can find the thing they're ready for in this lifetime to help them grow. Different lessons, different streams, and different work for different folks. Very well
Yes.
said.
Yes.
Different strokes for different folks. And my mama said it years ago, and it rings as true today as it did in the 70s. But the way I look at everything, and I look at all religions, all paths in the same way. Like, Diana and I drive to the grocery store. She drives one way, I drive the other. Is her way better than mine? For her. Is my way better than hers? For me. But what matters is that we both get our groceries. It's really as simple as that.
And that we don't make any of the checkers cry.
Yes, please. That would be nice too. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's not always, differing ideas isn't isn't always a personal affront to you. Yeah, you might
Yeah.
not like it, but they're not doing it necessarily to piss you off. I mean, I'm an asshole. I might be doing it to piss you off. But in general, the way people are living their lives doesn't have shit to do with you unless you're actually in that relationship or in that life with them.
Okay. Or for an example, because one thing people really hold dear, and I'm using this because using the Bible is a little too obvious, is books by J.R.R. Tolkien. Is when people speak critically, like I don't like J.R.R. Tolkien's writing at all. And people get really upset by this because it is so dear to them that they feel like they're being personally attacked. And reminding people that one, you are not the thing you love, and that someone not liking that thing does not threaten the existence of that thing is an important thing to remember and bring in.
Mhm.
So apparently it's a soapbox night for us.
I guess so. Well, I mean, as an author, it's also
Mm-hmm.
very true that if someone doesn't like your book, that doesn't take anything away from your book. It just wasn't their cup of tea.
No, and I know most authors, like a lot of publishers encourage us to post our reviews on our websites, and I'm a big advocate of Julia Cameron's work. She's the one who wrote The Artist's Way and talks about creative blocks. And one of the things she really advises people do is to not read our reviews.
Mhm.
And, we'll seek feedback before we publish. And as far as I'm concerned, I will seek feedback from as broad of a pool as I possibly can. And, that is the time to hear the criticism, because that is the time to do something about it.
Mhm.
And I will pull from people that don't necessarily like my writing or don't write the same style as I do. Or I will find someone who knows nothing about the occult and ask them to read it and give me notes.
Mhm. Because that's
Because
the way you grow.
yeah. And this is one of the reasons I had this poetry group in Minnesota. I called them a unicorn group because it was a group of completely unpretentious poets. You will not find a group like this ever again.
Mhm.
And I was the non-poet who's the member of the group because they all made me a better writer. Because they really got me to think about word choice and expand my vocabulary and play with things more. And I'm still friends with these people. I don't hear from them as much anymore, obviously, because it's been 6 years, but I still hear from them, and I've actually managed to make a few new friends just because of that connection. But it was because they were outside of what I do that I improved.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to find something like that since. I only found out about the California Writers Association like a month ago after, I had to domicile elsewhere for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, motherfuckers, I could have that support all along. um, but this is one of those things is the reviews. This is after the fact. This is the general public and people who may not know anything about writing, may not know what goes into writing a book. Like I had to sit down and explain to my 10-year-old while I was working in a funeral service for a client last week because he kept interrupting me after I told him I was working and not to interrupt me. And so I finally sat him down and said, okay, when I say I'm working, what do you think I'm doing? And he had to admit that he had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to be a writer someday, but he had no idea what a writer does, even when I'm writing rituals. So I had to sit down and say, okay, here's the part where I have to do a whole bunch of thinking. Here's where I write and change my mind a bunch of times. Here's where I actually write it and have to research things. And it kind of blew his mind. And so with the reviews, these are people like you told, Nikki will read the reviews. So in case there's something that really needs an answer,
Yeah.
this way I'm not screaming at people being silly on the internet. And, she can tell me like, the reviewer that was confused because they believed that the definition of spirit was only ghosts. And was
Mm-hmm.
clearly not a practitioner because any occult practitioner knows that spirit is a lot more than just dead humans.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to have to answer this, or the one where you told me about where someone didn't understand what buildings had to do with city magic.
Yeah.
I'm still having a hard time with that one because I don't
And,
even know
and
where to begin with
sometimes,
answering that.
and sometimes I do the translating for you.
Yeah,
Sometimes what they're saying is really kind of obscure, but I get what they mean by it.
yeah,
And I'm like, I think that this is what they actually meant. And then
yeah.
you can move forward with that because sometimes the it's so obscure,
It is.
you know? And I think, um, people have a certain expectation when they pick up these books.
Yeah,
And it's not always like that. The expectation and the reality sometimes are not a real thing, but like dealing with your children. When I'm working here and my kids are in school, I'm doing stuff on the computer and then they're on their breaks or they're on their lunch or then they're done and they don't realize that mom still has, another 2 hours of work that I'm trying to put in. And it
yeah.
might just look it okay, I'm going to answer this question in just a minute, Elsa. If
Oh,
if
it'll be fun.
it might look like I'm just farting around on the computer and I'm just surfing the web, but really I might be looking for, I might be looking for imagery. I might be looking for, you know, a definition of something that just helps me understand what I'm doing a little bit better. Um, maybe I'm watching a show because I need to take a break and my brain hurts,
Hmm. Oh, that
or
happens a lot.
yeah, or they see that I'm on Facebook or Instagram and they think, oh, she's not working, not realizing that I'm actually trying to be
Yeah.
effective with social media.
I actually had to explain to my partner recently that no, I almost never scroll Facebook anymore.
Hmm.
Like I will do a quick courtesy scroll, just try to catch stuff if I can, but
Yeah.
almost never. I just don't have the time. All right.
Okay. So, ridiculous question. Nikki, fell magical creatures attack the grocery store. What items do you grab and what do you do with them to fight back?
So
That's a good question. Uh-huh.
you first thing you'd probably do is call me and get a diagnostic so we can figure out what the critters are so we can figure out what to throw at them.
I don't know. I might try to set them on fire first. Fire
Eh,
works for a lot of things.
fire does work for a lot of things, but like it is the Bay Area and like for some parts of it you're going to get more sea creatures. Or like there's one day where I swear to God, I walked down to the Ocean Beach Safeway and the fog had stopped just outside the door. And I just got this weird idea that Carl had just stopped by for some ice cream.
Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest, though. My solution would probably not be a magical one. I would go to the deli counter or to the meat department and I'd grab something sharp. I'm kind of feral. We look for a weapon.
See, my question would be, I would look to see how it was attacking, to see if I could figure out what it wanted specifically. If I had a coworker I'd hated, I'd probably try to maneuver the coworker so that they could get eaten,
See,
because I'm
you're
awful that
thought,
way.
I'm action.
Yeah.
You respond, I react.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. But if I had to think about, God, I don't know. I mean, I could go to produce, grab basil for protection.
So there was someone years ago who had a random warehouse haunting where blood would appear on the floor overnight and then disappear the next day.
Mhm.
And so I just had her start playing Don't Worry, Be Happy over the loudspeakers overnight,
Mm.
and it completely stopped.
Yeah, see, you'd
See,
be
I
all
would go,
researching about it. I'd be like, kill it, just kill it.
well, you never know when you have an opportunity to make a friend.
Fair enough. But if magically speaking, if I couldn't eat it,
And you would probably try to eat it
I would
first.
probably try to eat it. Then I would try to kill it. Those would automatically be my thought processes. Faith,
You're definitely big.
Giles. Wait, no, wrong
I'm
hand.
kind of halfway between
Giles.
Buffy and I'm kind of halfway
Yeah.
between Buffy and Giles. More Giles lately
Um,
because not as much gym time,
yeah.
but because I got a little bit of both in me. And mine would be shit. I have to take care of this, Buffy, and then the what is it, Giles, and then the what does it want, Buffy and Giles, and then either do I get rid of it, do I kill it, or do I try to make friends with it, which is its own universe. That part's pure Diana. So
I'm still kill it. If it's not immortal, it can die. You hack it, most things die.
I mean, yeah, I would basically just need to know more about what it was. I figure a go-to if you're not absolutely sure what something is. The first thing you do is get some ammonia powder from the baking section if they have it,
Mhm.
because that will deactivate almost any spell or sigil or servitor. That just makes it fall completely apart. So in case somebody's just as a magician being a dick.
My answers may or may not be because I want a meat cleaver from the meat department.
You just want the damn meat cleaver.
I have a meat cleaver.
You just haven't found a way to accessorize it, get a bedazzler, and
When have you ever seen me bedazzle anything?
never, but I think I would pay to see that and laugh hysterically.
I don't even really wear jewelry.
Fair. Well, tactical disadvantage.
Well, no, I wear things that are spiky and will cause harm.
Who doesn't? So,
You just want yours shiny.
I like shiny, but I like
Okay,
real.
we were gonna keep this one kind of short tonight because you do have an early day tomorrow.
I do. Yeah.
But if there is any other comments, questions, if you're watching this later, if you're watching the replay of this later, absolutely leave questions in the comments, questions or comments in the chat, and we will definitely respond to that. I think maybe in 2 weeks, if we do it again, should we do a question and answer kind of thing? I think that would be fun.
I think it would be a lot of fun. I think a Q&A. And, there may be some other more difficult questions. I think on the elders one, it's I do have people I consider personal elders, but these are people where respect was earned and given.
Mm-hmm.
And because they treated me with respect, it was easier for me to treat them with respect.
Yeah. I think my go-to on this one is I am actually going to put aside my bloodthirsty gear for the moment and say, dig deeper. Why do you feel like what actions are making you more inclined to believe that they are not having respect or that they are not thinking about those who came before? Dig a little deeper and find out the why.
Yeah.
Before it just, maybe it does seem like it, and maybe you have a valid reasoning behind it, but I think it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
And
yes. And the way the question was presented, I feel like there was some story to it, but it wasn't the space for the story.
So I just, yeah, dig a little deeper, ask questions, figure out the why. That's one area that I would definitely say go Diana Giles and figure out the why.
Yes.
All right, my loves, I am going to cut us short because I'm being really good about keeping to time because I know you have a long day tomorrow.
Oh, it's going to
And
be a shitty day.
I have the day off. So maybe I'll be working on some new custom stuff for the shop.
And I am working on I have the packaging for for the Void Scream tea. I just need to get the labels on.
All right.
So, yay.
So
All
fun
right.
stuff for both of us. But thanks for watching us tonight. Again, if you watch us on the replay later and you have questions and comments, throw us a DM, put it in the chat box. We'll make sure it gets answered.
We would love to hear from y'all.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, Elsa.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.